Hello everyone. Today I introduce you to this small session about communication skills. This is just an introductory session so that what you get to know how important communication is in our daily lives and how one can improve one's communication skills through minor tips and practices. So this is one of the most important skills to master because we communicate every time, every day. What I'm doing right now is communication. You text your friends, your teachers teach you, you talk to your parents about your day, maybe. All of this is communication. So one can absolutely understand how important this gets, how important communication is in our everyday life, and why it is so necessary for us to be able to speak, listen, or convince people in the most effective manner. So, these are the four types of communication as listed on the screen. These are vocal, written, non-verbal, and usual. Vocal communication is talking, using words, exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm talking to you about how important communication skills are. So it is vocal communication. You use telephone calls, maybe you talk to your friends via calls. So that is communication, vocal communication. Written communication. I can say you text your peers, you write exam papers and tell your teachers how much do you know about the subject. You write letters. So whatever you do while writing, so that comes under written communication. The next thing is non-verbal communication. So the best thing I can maybe say here is non-verbal communication is about body language and eye contact, facial expressions. If I sit straight and I'm firm with my looks, I look very serious in a professional environment. So that comes out as a great thing out of me. So I'm communicating non-verbally. Other thing is maybe if guests are at your home and your mother is giving you a stern look, so you know through her eye contact that she does not approve of whatever you're doing. So that is another form of non-verbal communication. I'm just giving you simple real life instances so that you know what all of these things are. The last here is visual communication. The best thing I can say here is road signs where you see symbols about do not honk here or maybe school ahead. So all of these are visual communication. Also, another example can be if you ask me if 2020 was a good year and I show you this, you absolutely get an idea of what I'm trying to say. I'm presuming I'm talking to students here who use internet on a regular basis and have a little knowledge about memes. Or if you ask me, do I still study in Gyan Mandir Public School? And if I show you this picture, you absolutely know what I'm trying to say here. So this is visual communication, where words are replaced by images and symbols. Another example can be this. All of us know about the story of Thirsty Crow, but even if you do not know about it, looking at these small line pictures, you get an idea of the what the person is trying to tell you. So all of this is a part of visual communication only. Communication is not just limited to expressing one's own ideas, but also involves actively listening, observing, and empathizing with the speaker. So you cannot just go on talking and expect people to obviously always listen to you and administer your thoughts. You also have to patiently listen to what other person is trying to tell you. You have to observe things around you, their expressions, your body language, then ambience around, and you have to empathize with the speaker so as they get to know that you are listening to them and that their words do matter to you. One has to make a quick impression in a professional and personal environment so that people get to listen to you. We always have heard people say that first impression is the last impression. That might not be true for all the cases where you get a lot of time to know the person personally. But if you are going for an interview and you do not sit properly, or maybe you have nervousness all over your face, so that gives you a like that gives a very bad first impression of you, and people take not like tend not to take you seriously. So you have to make a quick impression, and the only way you can do that is improving your communication skills, maybe your non-verbal communication skills or your vocal communication skills, so that you do not fumble with your words and you have confidence in whatever you're trying to say. The other important thing here is communication is a two-way process. It has to be backed up by feedback. If you're trying to tell people, if I'm trying to tell you what communication is and you do not understand anything, or you do not respond with maybe a nod or maybe asking questions, that means that all of like whatever I'm trying to tell you is going all in vain. When your teachers are teaching you, they always ask you if you're getting something. If you do not nod, if you do not answer them, if you do not ask questions, they do get an impression that the communication cycle has been broken, you have not received anything she was trying to tell you, anything they were trying to tell you. So communication has to be backed up by feedback. Otherwise, the person at the receiving end of it has not understood what you're trying to say. So these are, small bullet points about what communication skills are and how you can improve them. So the first thing here is active listening. Your teachers are not lying when they say that a good speaker is a good listener first. So you have to listen to the other person speaking in order to be a good speaker yourself. When they're trying to tell you something, you do not look for distractions around. You do not look here and there. If your friend is telling about their day or maybe a bad exam they had, you do not have to check your phone. You absolutely have to respond to whatever they are saying. These are good signs that you're an active listener, and this absolutely helps in improving your communication skills. The other thing here is responsiveness. If I'm just going on saying, and you do not listen to me, you are looking here and there. If you're not asking questions, that means that you're not attentive enough, or maybe I have failed in gaining your attention. So the listener has an important part in responding to the speaker, so that he or she feels, they might feel that you are paying attention to them. These are one of key skills an active listener, a good listener has. You pay attention, you ask them right questions, you make eye contact. Otherwise, you do not empathize well with the speaker. This usually happens in a classroom when your teachers ask you to come forward and recite a poem, maybe, or a story as a class activity, and you are absolutely scared that your friends might laugh at you. So that is an example of bad communication. I'm sorry for the disturbance there. So what I was trying to say is, when you're afraid that you cannot speak in front of your whole class, that your friends might laugh at you, or they might just give you mean looks. You're afraid that they might not act as good listeners, and that really gets you demotivated. So you can actually feel how important good listening is for the speaker, so that they get motivated and it builds their confidence. The other thing here is volume and clarity. So this is for the speaker. You have to be absolutely clear of what you're trying to say. You have to know what you're trying to tell people. You have to be clear of your thoughts, your words, the words you are going to use, the things you are going to say. You must absolutely know them before projecting them to the audience. You have to be clear with your words. If I tend to fumble, if you're thirsty, maybe, if you're just inconfident and nervous, that is not a good sign of a good speaker. Also, you have to adjust your voice according to different environments. If I'm addressing a circle of 4 to 5 people, I cannot use a mic and go ahead trying to say anything and everything I want to say. You have to adjust your voice levels. If I'm in front of a whole auditorium filled with a lot of people with different noises around, I cannot use my normal voice tone, my regular voice tone to address all the people. So these are small things one has to take note of while trying to address people. You have to be clear of your thoughts, and you have to know what volume level is right for the audience being catered to. The other thing here is respect to full vocabulary. If I am talking to a class of students from maybe sixth standard, I cannot go on and use vocabulary English, maybe 12th standard people understand. So if I'm talking to you people, if you're from ninth standard, maybe I cannot go ahead and use technical jargons from business background. So one has to absolutely know the audience in order to use good words so that they understand them. If you do not use good words, maybe you use fancy jargons or difficult vocabulary, audience might the audience might not feel they are dumb, but they might think that you are dumb. It is an example of poor communication, and it is not their fault, but the person at the speaking end of it is at fault here. The other thing here is turn taking. So what turn taking in a communication process means is, if I'm talking to a single person, I'm speaking, I'm telling what I have to do, what I have to tell, I'm doing all of this. So the other person has to patiently listen and then wait for their turn to talk. This is called turn taking. This is absolutely needful in an environment when people are there only to project their voice. They do not want to listen to other person, but all they want to do is maybe talk about their thoughts and maybe tell people what they think about. That gets real ugly, and the communication cycle is disrupted here. Nobody is listening to anybody, so that does not fit well in an environment. So turn taking is an absolutely good way of overcoming that fear that people might not listen to you, so you might not listen to anybody. The other thing which is important in communication is pause. You have to know where you have to stop saying things so that it gives people enough time to administer what you have already said. You have to, when even if your teacher has asked you to read a paragraph in front of the whole class, you have to absolutely know where to take good pause in order to finish a sentence, or maybe take a good break. This does not break the communication cycle, but it absolutely enhances it wonderfully. Other thing here is confidence. One has to be very confident when when addressing a large gathering. If I tend to fumble in front of the entire audience while speaking in a debate competition, the entire point of me speaking gets futile. So one has to be confident with their words. Their legs should not shake, their voice should not fumble, and this gets there with practice. If I say I've been in thousand speaking competitions, declamations, debates, I've never stood on stage without practicing it 100 times in front of the mirror. Confidence comes with practice. It is not a one-day thing. You have to keep practicing. If even if you're not good at the language, or maybe you're not good at public speaking, the practice gets you everywhere. Even if people say that you do not know good English, you have to absolutely keep trying English. You normally talk in your daily chores in English, so that you know how to speak in English. It is no shame in not make in not using English just because you don't know how to use grammatically good sentences. Maybe you have to absolutely practice. That gets you confidence. Plus, you do not use filler words in a professional environment. If I keep on maybe give an interview, if I'm going for an interview and keep using words like such as, you know, these the interviewee gets like the interviewee is here in confident, and the interviewer gets to know it immediately. They know that the person is not confident enough. So the filler words are not just there to improve your fluency, but they mar your confidence, and this is an important thing here. Other thing I want to get on to is non-verbal cues. These are the same as non-verbal communication I told about in the beginning. Body language and facial expressions. If I'm not giving a good eye contact to the person saying, I am marring his or her confidence, and I'm portraying myself as a bad listener. So I have to keep, good facial expression, even if I'm a listener. For a speaker, it is absolutely necessary to, pitch your voice in a good manner, to use good facial expressions in order to communicate properly. I have to use good body posture. I have to sit straight, maybe, and strong, maybe stand straight and walk around with good hand gestures. That comes out as great way of making people believe that you know how to communicate properly. The other thing here is use the right medium. We always tend to text people on WhatsApp, maybe for everything possible. You ask doubts to your teacher over WhatsApp, you talk to your friends over WhatsApp, and WhatsApp is not always a good way of communicating with people of any sort. You have to know the right medium. If you're talking in a formal environment, you have to use emails, because emails are a good way of talking with professional people. If you are talking to your friends, your peers, or your batchmates, you can converse over phone, because that is an informal medium. You know when to meet personally to talk to people. So you have to absolutely know what medium is right for the time, the place, and the absolute reason you are trying to reach out to the person, talk to them. So you have to know what reason fits the right medium. Channelize your thoughts into words. So the absolutely good way to improve your communication skills is knowing how to speak or maybe write what is there in your mind. If I'm not good at English, I have many people face a problem that they know they know a sentence is there in their mind, but they cannot speak it out there. And if I'm talking about English, if I'm talking about English here, I can say that the sentence was there in my mind, but I could not say it because I'm not good in English. So one of the greatest ways of doing is to write a daily journal, a diary. Our teachers always used to give a holiday homework in elementary school, to write a daily diary journal. That is a good way of channelizing your thoughts into words. One gets familiar with the language on a daily basis, and they know how to write it. Second, vocabulary. In learning new words, we all used to hate it when it was given as a holiday homework or maybe forced upon us. But dictionaries are a great way of improving one's vocabulary, learning new words, and this does not make does you any harm. It does absolute good to you. Get good to you. You become a good writer. You become a good speaker, and you know which words to use in what environment. The last thing here is constructive criticism. All of us hate criticism, to be honest, but when you are when you are using something, you are trying to improve, the only scope there is asking for honest feedback from people you trust. You can ask them to correct you in personal environment when you are with them individually, or you can ask your teachers for correcting your grammar, if you're mm, if you can maybe write a paragraph or two about anything about any topic on a daily basis, and get your teacher to check your grammar or maybe spelling errors. So all of this comes under constructive criticism, which helps you a lot in improving your communication. You get to know the language better, you know where you're going wrong, you get to know how to use new words and project them to the audience you're talking to. Maybe in any environment, be it professional, be it personal, maybe you're talking to your best friend, or maybe you are addressing a large gathering. All of this helps in improving your communication skills. This brings us to the end of this introductory session. If you have any doubts, you are welcome to ask them in the chat box. Thank you for you all too for listening to this. And I hope you all improve your communication skills in the future, which is an absolute important thing.